To take the floor, sir.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we see it.
Excellent. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, so the nature of the training here today is coined as the intro to lending. So just very quickly, I'm just going to kind of hit some high points. So to add to what Robert was saying, from the standpoint for us, are we going to need to gather paperwork and run credit and bank statements and proof of income and all that other happy stuff? Yes, eventually. But in order for us to price out options for people, I basically just need, and I coined at the top here, the sheet parameters of a loan. But when I talk to people, and from a training standpoint, I use this catchphrase, snapshot of info, because it has the connotation that's very quick. And the entire, notion of a snapshot is quick and painless. It's smile, cheese, bam, done. So the snapshot of info is just some core data in order for us to price options. So I'm just going to kind of rip through the things that we otherwise need in order to come up with some options for clients. And from the standpoint of the quality of information, the better the quality of the information that comes in, the better the quote's going to stick, quite frankly. So if somebody overstates their credit score or their income or the money that they have in the bank, then, quote unquote, shame on them, not shame on me. I have handouts right there as well. So I would say to the first day I've ever been in the industry, on the application itself, it doesn't even matter what's on it as long as it's right. So I could care less what people are bringing to the table, whatever their quote unquote proverbial lump of clay is. I'll get it into the best, molded, sculpted, finished product as I possibly can based on whatever people are bringing to the table and looking to accomplish. So right off the top here, it talks about the credit profile, and we get really hung up on the credit score, which I'm not saying it's not important, but recency and severity of lates is another big deal. And when we talk about that, from a lending standpoint, if somebody has a recent bankruptcy, if somebody has a recent foreclosure, that's great that you got a credit score 800, but it doesn't mean that that's the end all say all. So the credit profile kind of goes twofold with the scores and any recent or severe lates. But definitely a factor with regards to products and programs that are out there. The equity in a property defined by the loan to the value. It's just quick math. If the loan's 80,000, the value's 100 grand, you're at an 80% loan to value. Our industry is driven on a percentage, not a dollar amount. So we could care less if you have 100,000 in equity. It doesn't matter anything to us, because if the property's worth 200 grand and you want a $100,000 loan, it's a 50% loan to value, great security interest. Conversely, if the property is worth $1 million, you got 100,000 in equity. That's a 90% loan to value for $900,000 loan amount. So everything is percentage driven. The combined loan to value adds any seconds or thirds. So if I have a 90% loan to value and 100% combined loan to value, that means I get a piggyback second. Okay. So there are programs out there that we offer on combined loan to values. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when we talked about our programs. We have programs that go all the way up to 105% combined loan to value for down payment and closing cost assistance. The third line item down here are the mortgage industry refers to as liquid assets. And it's pretty much anything that can be converted to cash. It's not material possessions. It's not an antique car. It's not a vintage Picasso painting. It's not jewelry. It's something you can convert to cash right away. It's your checking account, your savings account, any other investment accounts would be a catch-all, stock, IRAs, retirement accounts. We ask for people if they have any gift funds available. And then is just a catch-all. If there's anything of value that could be sold, it might help you for closing. You've had instances that people have, an additional car that they're not using. Like, yeah, I mean, I could sell that if it would make the difference. Might be the difference of them getting to where they want to go. I've had people that have coin collections, $15,000, $20,000, excessive jewelry that they're willing to go hawk in order to get in. It's all relative. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to material possessions of that nature, I'd be the first one to ask any prospective client, what's more important, the house or that beautiful gold necklace or that beautiful ring, aside from maybe being a family heirloom. The number 4 line item down here refers to the occupancy on the property. And occupancy drives, all of these are risk-based factors. The occupancy for an owner-occupied property is a better risk than a second home or than a non-owner occupied property. Non-owner occupied would be rentals. So they have different interest rates depending upon the occupancy as well. It matters. Property type as well. If it's a single family residence, if it's a condo, a townhome, if it's multi-unit, how many? Anything more than 4 units is defined as a commercial loan. If it's a manufactured home, we would run every kind of property type that's out there. Doesn't matter how old the manufactured home, and we even have programs for manufactured homes in a park. I'm not saying we do a ton of them, but there's not much that gets past us. Number 6, the usage of the proceeds, what you're doing with the money for the loan. If it's a purchase transaction, if you don't own it now, purchase transaction, only exception to that is you can treat a refinance if somebody is making the payment to the mortgage company for 12 months. They're not on title, they're not on the loan, they're making the payment for 12 months, they can refinance. That's a refi transaction. It's the only exception to that, not being on title. If you're not on title now, it's a refi, and the 2 kinds are either no cash out or cash out. And certainly no cash out's less risky than cash out. And they're all relative depending upon the pricing of the loan. And we have people that are looking to pre-qualify for a home purchase. And this is really, key questions when it comes down to pre-qualifying. And I know from the very first sales retreat I went to with Mike Ferry, if you're not pre-qualifying people well, you're not doing your job, period. From our standpoint, I'm trying to get people exactly where they want to go. What would you like to keep your house payment to? There are instances that people can afford more home than based on their income than they're otherwise comfortable paying. Some folks enjoy excessive travel. Some folks have kids or tuition expenses, college tuition, whatever the case may be. Like to eat out often, like the finer things of life. Other people, quite frankly, would leverage themselves to the hilt, and have no problem eating rice and beans for dinner. And with that purchase pre-qual, with the maximum payment they'd like to stay to, is also what is the total amount of cash you'd like for closing? So number 3, we asked what's the total amount of money they got to their name. And under number 7, from the total amount of money to your name, how much would you like for closing? In essence, up front, we're trying to get what's every nickel to your name. And it could be 50,000 and maybe you'd like to spend 25. Well, if push comes to shove and you needed to spend 30 or 33 or 35 in order to get the house that you want, at least we know that you got it, and I'm not looking to tap any money from somebody that they would not otherwise want to spend. But at least we know what we have from a negotiation standpoint. And certainly as soon as they get out there and they start looking at homes, it just opens up more doors for them. Number 8 on here is debt ratios. And I don't necessarily up front, when I'm just working up options for people, get into the nitty gritty of all of the money that you make in comparison to all the debt that you carry. I try to lower the barrier to entry to gain trust with prospective clients and just get the quick snapshot of info. And maybe not even get into, I'll ask what they do for work or maybe how much money they make on an annual basis. But really trying to say, hey, here are the options available to you. Do you like what you see? And if you do like what you see, then let's go ahead and package the loan. Let's gather the paperwork. Let's put everything together. And certainly if you're qualifying by your income, it would be things like IRS tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs, things of that nature. So I'm not going to downplay debt ratios, but up front, there are some people out there because I know our competition is going to try to make it easy on the consumer. In some respects, our competition might not even ask some of these probing pre-qualifying questions at all. And they just start, lobbing different options out there and just, things that the prospective client might not even be interested in for that matter. But under the debt ratio in our industry, we got two types of debt ratio. The housing ratio is just the total house payment divided by the income per month. And the total debt ratio is the total house payment plus the other debt that shows in the credit report. The only other exception could be if you have wage garnishments or something from a pay stub. Example would be, maybe IRS. It could be child support payments. It could be alimony. It could be, credit union loan that shows as an automatic deduction from your pay stub. But the other debt on total debt ratio does not include the utilities, your electric bill, self-storage facility, anything that's not on the credit's not included. The little note in the bottom of this debt ratio column, the total house payment in our industry equates to the payment on the loan, and then the on a monthly basis, how much the property taxes are, how much the homeowner's insurance is, if there's an HOA dues per month, and depending upon the loan type, if you have any mortgage insurance as well. So it all needs to be lumped in. There are points in time we could pre-qualify someone for a home purchase, and they get out there, and once you're identifying properties you really like and that you want to make an offer on, from a lending standpoint, it's good for us to get back involved and recalculate and requalify that specific home. Could be certain homes in certain areas. There are condo complexes in areas. Could be that you have a gated entry. I have exercise rooms, tennis courts, swimming pools. There are HOAs out there that could be $500, $600, $700 a month. So all relative one to another. On to number 9. So number 9 and number 10 kind of go hand in hand, and 11 for that matter. It's important to realize that depending upon where the property is located, there are maximum loan limits depending upon certain types of programs. And I've had buyers that live in, a great example would be the Diamond Bar area. So I've had buyers in Diamond Bar that want to maybe move or buy a property anywhere within a 10 or 15 mile radius of Diamond Bar. And all of a sudden, if you opt to shoot south on the 57, 2-3 miles, and you drop into Orange County and Brea, and you head up to 60, and maybe to Hacienda Heights area. Now I'm into LA County. I drop on the backside into Chino. Now I'm in San Bernardino County. I'm in Riverside County in certain area, in Corona. So it's all relative to where people are buying into. Even up and down the 210 corridor. If I'm in areas like Arcadia, I'm in LA County. If I go a little further east and I'm in Upland, I might be in San Bernardino County. So depending upon the price point of the home, could depend on where do these loan limits top out and what's available. Some of the lower and minimum down payment that's out there, it matters. You want to get into an FHA loan with 3.5% down payment. It's very material as to where people are purchasing homes. And even in talking to prospective buyers, from our standpoint in the lending side, it's important that we're explaining it also to the agents they're working with, because at points in time, the buyer doesn't understand the importance of what all this means. They're just seeing the house, and the house is a house. So on number 9, the county property is located in with maximum conforming loan limits on a 1-unit property. This was just announced yesterday, and I put it out on an email to everybody, but FHFA is the government agency that handles one aspect of what they do is the maximum loan limits per year. And a lot of it comes down to price of homes in certain areas. So some areas are more high cost than others, but across the United States of America, the standard conforming loan limit for every county anywhere was increased to 726,200. Last year, it was only in 2022, this year, it was only 647,200. So just the conforming loan limit went up $79,000 in 1 year, which is a really big jump. Maybe the biggest jump I've ever had. I've been doing this for 33 years. I don't think I've ever seen a historical jump that's been that much. In higher cost areas, so the next line item down, it says high balance conforming loan limit. What the heck does that mean? That means that LA and Orange County, the property values are more expensive. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, defined by a conforming loan or conventional loan, they're one and the same. But Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have what they call a high balance limit. There's a very slight pricing adjustment. Could be maybe 1/8% in rate, somewhere right in there, depending upon on the borrower's qualifications. But you can take the same conforming loan limit, let's say as a standard 5% down payment, and I can do it in LA and Orange County to a loan amount all the way up to $1,089,300. It's that material. So when I talk about the difference of up and down the 210 corridor and dropping into LA County versus dropping into San Bernardino or Riverside County or certain areas where your offices are, it's very material. But LA and Orange County have the same number. The high balance conforming loan limit for San Diego County is just a little bit less. It came out at $977,500. We have no high balance loan limit in Riverside or San Bernardino County. So the max is the max. $726,200 is it for a conventional loan. Okay. And in certain pockets in Riverside, San Bernardino County, especially last year at the $647,200, our office is here in Murrieta. I happen to live in the city of Temecula. In the city of Temecula with the $647,200, very difficult to find homes on those lesser down payment, unless you got a good chunk of change to put down, because the median priced home over the summer, I think, was like $819, and our conforming loan limit is only $647. So the fact that we're getting higher loan limits, it certainly opens up more doors. There are programs over these loan limits. They're just going to the jumbo product. So it's not to say that, what does this mean? But when people want to stay in the most competitive rate, and they really get hung up on, well, wait a second here. You said I could get this rate at 5.75. Why all of a sudden now are you at 6 1/8 or 6 1/4? They think we're pulling a fast one on them. That is not the case. It just comes down to, if you want to stay with the most competitively priced loan under a conforming loan limit, this is what we're talking about for these loan limits. You go over that, it's not to say that the transaction's not doable. There's just little pricing adjustments. So number 10 on here for FHA, FHA has not disclosed their 2023 numbers yet. The FHFA handles the conventional or conforming piece through Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They always announce their limits probably a month or so prior to FHA. FHA kind of lags a little behind. I definitely anticipate these loan limits for FHA to be increasing. I literally got the FHFA announcement yesterday, and I put out that email to everyone as soon as I got it, because I get the notifications and all the mortgagee letters direct from the agencies. And there were lenders that I was speaking to on the phone about, they didn't even have those loan limits yet. I'm asking them, are you already up to the 726,200? Like, what are you talking about? So some of the lenders we were working with didn't even have it as quick as I put it out to everyone. So the second the FHA loan limits go up, I'll certainly make sure everybody has those numbers as well. And I would anticipate probably within the next week or so that we'll see those new FHA loan limits. We have lenders on a VA loan that will do 100% financing in every single county, and the max loan limit is $5 million. So literally with VA entitlement, providing that you can qualify based on your income, you could get a VA loan all the way up to $5 million, 100% finance. VA has this one fee called a VA funding fee that they tack on top of the loan amount. And if you have a VA disability, then there's no VA funding fee. Yep. So it's all relative. So the funding fee is relative to, is it your first time usage? Is it a subsequent usage for your VA entitlement? Are you doing 100% financing? Is there any down payment involved? But the VA loans that are out there, very, very lucrative. Most certainly, we have a lot of people that are either currently serving and or previously served in the military. So a quick snapshot on this of info that's in here. I literally, and or any of our loan officers, could have anywhere between a 5 and 7 minute conversation with someone, going through their credit profile, their equity on a purchase transaction is established by what they're bringing to the table for cash for closing. And I specifically down here on this cash for closing is not how much money you want for down payment, because there are closing costs involved as well. Up front, I don't bank on the fact that the seller is going to pay costs. That's a nice feather in the cap. So is it happening? I would say probably almost 90% of the transactions that we have in escrow right now all have seller paid costs. And we have some of them up at $25,000 or more. So it's all relative. So is it out there? Is the tide turn? It's absolutely a buyer's market. But from our standpoint up front, I don't assume that that's going to be there. So the total cash for closing, if we need it and we need the seller to pay costs, then, we're communicating back to the agent that's representing the buyer to say, that not only do you need to find a house that's appealing for them, but you need to find a house where we can get whatever the number is, 10,000, 12,000, 5,000, whatever they need is a little help to get in. All right. We issue initial approval letters for people. When it becomes property specific, there are certain homes that are out there, I think we all know good and well, where the property tax rate varies greatly in Southern California. So there are some newer builds that are out there. The tax rate could be 2% or in the low twos. There are older homes in the area. The tax rate could be 1% or 1.1. You buy a house for $600,000 loan amount, and the difference of 1% in tax rate, $6,000 a year, is $500 a month in payment. So there are points in time, even just based on the tax rate, that could depend on the buyer's, kind of willingness to move forward in wanting to step in or purchase a home. And that holds true with Mello-Roos as well. So Mello-Roos is an additional taxation or supplemental property taxes. Probably not telling you anything you don't know. The second sheet in here, and I put together in this intro for lending, refers to the time frame for funding. So for people that are newer into the industry and with regards to lending, it seems like there are a lot of lenders that are out there where things seem somewhat vague. What is the expectation? What should the agent expect to happen? And how, what is a timely transaction? What should be happening? On day 8 or day 10, if the appraisal is not ordered, should I be concerned? If we're past our contingencies, should I be alarmed, or is the loan officer just give me a load of bull and now I feel more comfortable based on their double talk? So this time frame for funding is packed and is very realistic. I think I put it together for like a 23, 24 day fund, but very, very realistic. Even the fact that there are additional conditions added in the whole bit. So forgive me this first line right in here, and I put it out in the email to everybody. For whatever reason, the color copier, and it happened on a couple pages I tried to print yesterday, there was one line that it just hacked right through the middle of this. So the rest of it was clean, and I don't know why it wasn't on the first page, but it is what it is. So the clock starts ticking for us in our industry. We have the initial lead. We'll run the initial credit report. We get the checklist of items that we need. So what's the checklist of items? If we're qualifying by their income, it's things like tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs. It's things like the last 2 months bank statements, things of that nature. So we have the core bit of paperwork. When we are making offers on homes, and what every loan officer here has otherwise been trained to do is to make sure that we have every piece of paper needed from the client, such that when their offer is accepted, the only things that we need from that point forward is an acceptable appraisal, an acceptable RPA, and clear title, or at least clear title by closing. So we gotta have lien position on the title. Certainly the appraisal has to be acceptable, and the purchase agreement has to be acceptable. So, what would be like an odd nuance with a purchase agreement ever having some issue? If you're buying $1 million property, and in the $1 million is included, 10 exotic cars that are Ferraris, Lamborghinis, things of that nature, That we're not going with the $1 million on the lending side when it comes down to mortgage financing. With regards to the appraisal, the appraisal has to be as is. The appraisal cannot be subject to. So just from the standpoint of the collateral itself, if we're doing our job well, the only thing we need is appraisal, title, and RPA by the time the offer is accepted. That's how deals get closed very quickly. So we have transactions that can close in the single-digit days. Residential purchase agreement. If you, how do these people do these deals so fast? And how do some other deals just take so long? There are people in our industry that are very quick to issue approval letters. The approval letter is worth the paper it's written on. It means nothing. And there's exclusionary clauses on every single one of them. So it's not a commitment to lend. There are some people out there that just issue the approval letter just to accommodate agents. And the agents are out there busting their backside to get the buyer under contract. And it could very well be that the buyer never qualified to begin with. And the agent has exhausted all of this time and effort running around, showing properties, negotiating with other agents, researching, digging, previewing, whatever the case is. It takes a lot of time and effort, to get a buyer under contract. I don't discount that. If we're doing our job well up front, the only thing that once again could possibly be a deal killer would be title, appraisal, and the purchase agreement itself. At points in time, we don't need in our industry, mortgage side, the home inspection, but it could be the home inspection blows the deal up, due to the seller's lack of willingness on the request for repairs. So on any of that stuff, that could very well be. So day one for us is we're in escrow, we have an accepted, fully executed residential purchase agreement. We've already gotten all of the client's paperwork. I suggest to every one of our loan officers, as borrowers, we'll initially pre-approve them, but as they get additional pay stubs, send them to us. As they get additional bank statements, send them to us. Every calendar month it rolls over, we're trying to keep our file current such that once you get under contract, we're hitting the ground running. So day one, we submit the loan-to-loan processing with all the required paperwork. We have escrow open, the prelim's already ordered. It could be the very same day it's already uploaded and registered. I packed it a day to be safe, to say that by day two, the loan is registered. The loan estimate is the initial disclosure that goes from the lender and it's emailed to our client. And the term I write in here, e-sign, because it doesn't have the same DocuSign moniker, but it's the same electronic signature process. So the client gets the initial disclosure, they acknowledge receipt of the initial disclosure. The second that happens, we can order the appraisal right away. Okay, we can lock in the rate, and I propose to everybody lock in the rate right away. I go through pipeline reports. Those loan officers of ours or clients that do not have a rate lock in place, from me to you, I have issues with it. I'd rather get that thing inked and locked in and not at a point where any market movement could possibly negate our ability to perform and get the loan funded for that. The rate lock is predicated on however long the escrow time period is. So if you have a 30-day escrow, I'm going to probably try to make sure that the rate lock is extended from maybe in the 35-day range. We'll try to pack it at least a few days just to be safe. But if you're in a 45-day escrow, 60-day escrow, our rate lock is going to be in line with whatever you need. We have all the way up to 180-day rate locks. So if you have a client that's with the new build and the property's not going to be completed until March, then we can still do an advanced rate lock that goes out 6 months. We have rate locks that were executed in February of this year with homes that were completed in September. And the rate lock was done at 2.75%. When the home was completed in September, the exact same rate was 6.25%. The fact that they did the advanced rate lock up front was night and day, saved the borrower hundreds of thousands. I put in all the way to day 5, we get loan approval. Most of our lenders are running 24 to 48 hours for loan approval, but I packed in an extra day to be safe. Certainly you could have a weekend in there as well. But by day 5, we should have loan approval. And every approval out there has what they call PTD, which is prior to doc, and PTF is prior to funding conditions. So it could be we submitted the loan, and a typical prior to loan doc condition is the appraisal. It could be typical prior to funding condition. Could be the eventual wire of funds, to escrow. If we have not already ordered the appraisal as soon as we otherwise could up front, we'll order it as soon as we get the approval. There are instances that we have borrowers that are really sitting on the fence. It could be the cash flow analysis, or we're really looking for a big exception. It could be maybe they're waiting for the home inspection to come back or the request for repairs to be resolved, and they don't want to order the appraisal until that's resolved and incur additional expense. But we should be ordering the appraisal by day 5-ish. If not sooner. I packed it another 5 days in here to get all the prior to loan document conditions into the lender. Put it another few days where the underwriter reviewed it, and let's say they even added additional conditions based on what was sent. There was something that caused an additional question or concern. They added something else. Packed it another couple days where we got all the additional items back to them and submitted to underwriting. So it's not some, fluff pie in the sky, but by day 17, which a lot of our loan approval contingencies are 17-day, we should have final sign off and clear to close. Most of our lenders will issue the closing disclosure up front. Some of our lenders wait for the closing disclosure with the CTC, which is clear to close. So I put it in here as a worst case scenario that the closing disclosure was not issued until we had CTC, but it could very well be by day 5 or day 6, the closing disclosure is sent out and the client's already, they won't send the CD until the rate's locked. So you have the initial loan estimate, there's a locked loan estimate that goes to the borrower, and then the closing disclosure is the CD. There are a lot of people in our industry, either newer loan officers and or real estate agents and brokers that are not that familiar with lending, that put a lot of faith and trust in the fact that the closing disclosure has been sent and already acknowledged and e-signed. The closing disclosure, or CD, has this connotation that we're closing. Everything's good. Closing disclosure does not necessarily mean you have CTC or clear to close. So in the mortgage industry, CTC or clear to close is what you want to hear from an agent, listing or selling agent standpoint. The fact that the CD went out, once again, doesn't mean a hill of beans. The CTC is the kicker. That means that all conditions have been signed off. Okay. Well, if you have a loan approval contingency and it's a 17-day, what's going to happen is if you miss your contingencies, it could be that the listing agent issues the notice to perform. And then it comes down to they want to squeeze the buyer, and they want them at the end of the day, if you don't have your stuff together, then I want you to remove the contingencies such that your escrow deposit's at risk. And there are some clients out there that would say, well, I don't want to risk my escrow deposit because I don't have a clear to close yet. But if we have our ducks in a row up front and we're doing our job well, then there's no reason for us not to have every I dotted and T crossed. The issues arise when we just lack that sense of urgency, and or clients just drag their feet. So it's really a matter from the loan officer standpoint, to really continue to, I hate to use the word hound, but really, stay on top of our clients to ensure everything's coming in a timely fashion. And if they don't know where to find something, help them. Where can you find this? Where can I locate this? How can I get this resolved quickly? So I put together day 17 to day 20, assuming that this closing disclosure was on day 17, because there's a 3-day cooling off period after the CD is e-signed before they can sign loan docs. So I packed it as if worst case, we're all the way to day 20 signing loan documents with the notary. Okay. Packed it another few days here to get the docs back to the lender. And we, in some of our counties, can do a special and fund and record on the same day. And other counties that we operate in will not do a special, and they're going to fund on a Tuesday and record on a Wednesday. So depending upon the special recording here, same day for the specific county, you're looking at day 23, 24. Okay. Can a loan fund in 10 days or 12 days? Yes. Can a loan fund even quicker than that? Could. Do we get automated underwriting approvals that have an appraisal waiver? We do. So if you get an appraisal waiver, saves a ton of time because now I don't need any of that. So now, I mean, we are absolutely in the fast lane. Okay. You're on the Autobahn, no speed limit, just full throttle, foot to the floor. I put at the bottom here some variables to the time frames. And if nothing else, I mean, it's good to just talk about, where do things vary? How could things change? There are instances, and it's not so much right now because the volume in the industry is down. But if I went back to the COVID era, when volume was just right through the top of the roof and rates were excellent, lenders' turn times are terrible. It could take a week to 2 weeks just to underwrite a loan. These days, not even kind of. Okay, so the lenders' turnaround times for the initial disclosures, approval, condition review, CD, loan docs, funding, does that vary over time? Yes, it does. Right now, everything, is super quick, 24 hours, so turn. Second variable for time frames mentioned in here is there are points in time that we get delays with the appraisal appointment. We have instances. It could be the property is an investment property that's tenant occupied. In the current tenant, the landlord, they're struggling to get an appointment. They're struggling to gain entry. Whatever the case is. So if there's any delay in getting this, sometimes we have properties in remote areas, where we're struggling to find an appraiser to pick up the order. I assimilate appraisal orders, and things changed back after the downturn in the economy in 2008. There was legislation in Congress called the Dodd-Frank Act. And in there, one of the things that they had is this provision called the Home Valuation Code of Conduct. And it says that lenders can no longer have an in-house appraisal department, and you can't have a controlled arrangement with appraisers. So these days, appraisals are all done on a round-robin basis with independent AMC as appraisal management companies. You got to have at least 3 in the mix, and it's the next up. So I'll never know who the next AMC it's going to get assigned to would be, 1, and 2, who the appraisal they're going to assign it to would be. And some appraisers cherry pick. If it's a remote area, we have a property that's way out, outside of our market areas. It could be appraisers, once again, they cherry pick, or maybe they're not quick to jump on it. It's almost equivalent to an Uber or Lyft driver. You put in the request for the pickup. Why is no one responding to me? That's because they don't want to pick you up, at LAX and drive you 100 feet to your hotel. It's not happening. You're wasting my time. Or I'm not picking you up at LAX and driving you to Vegas. Like, thanks anyway. So all kind of relative. So the second line item here says the need for reinspection. There's silly stuff that's out there, and it just is beyond me. Things like carbon monoxide detectors still arise. Double strapped, water heaters. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Outlets that aren't covered. I mean, just silly stuff for reinspection. It could be more material issues like termite work or the like. Issues with title, trying to resolve issues with title could be a delay. Certainly on refinances, if there are any subordinations that are in there. We've had some issues where we have recorded line items through solar companies, where the solar company is very quick to take your money and go out and do the work. They're not very quick to actually subordinate a lien that they have against the title to a home. They really don't care too much about that. So there could be a delay there too. We got to jump on that stuff very quickly. The next line item in here talks about the client's willingness to get items in quickly. Really got to stay on top of them. There are a lot of folks out there that say, I'm in a 60-day escrow. What's the rush? This isn't a really big, it's a big deal. I'm not going to sit here and wait to the 57th day, to get things I need by day 1. And some clients are just really lagging on e-signing the loan estimates and the closing disclosures. We on the lending side really got to stay on top of that stuff. And certainly we go through weekends and holidays. So there are points in time you go through a Thanksgiving holiday. I mean, you had a 4-day, you just lost 4 days. You go like the silly season in and around Christmas and New Year's. I've been in this industry long enough. I mean, I realize like Christmas is 1 day, New Year's is 1 day. But there are some people out there, well, it's the holidays, and they just have this kind of just, notion that everything goes into slow gear would be an understatement. So from the standpoint of looking at reasonable expectations, I put together this time frame for funding, if nothing else, of what should I expect when we open escrow, what should be happening? How should this all come together? Okay. And I'm just going to answer this to the group. So in the chat room, Agnes out of our Oceanside office is asking, what is a piggyback second? A piggyback second is a second trust deed that's done at the same time that the first trust deed is done. So they go concurrently and they fund at the same time. Why would anybody ever do a piggyback second? It could be that I want to stay away from mortgage insurance. I have 10% down payment. I'm going to do an 80% loan to value first mortgage. I'm going to back it up with 10% more of the purchase price as a second. I stay away from mortgage insurance, which I get no tax deduction for the interest on the MI. It could be I'm just missing a conforming loan amount. So I want to take it to the 726,200 first trust deed loan amount, and I'll back it up with the $10,000 or $11,000 second trust deed. Big deal to get the better rate on the bigger loan. So piggyback second means concurrent at the same time. And Iris in LA is asking, Chinese speaking, Spanish speaking, absolutely. We have a boatload of Spanish speaking loan officers, Iris. I cannot speak to Chinese speaking. I know Agnes, and you could chime in, Agnes. I know you speak Tagalog. Do you speak any other languages?
Filipino and English. Patrick speaks Cantonese, but he's not a loan officer.
Okay. So yeah, Patrick is Agnes's husband. But I don't know. Iris, I would have to reach out. I mean, as it stands right now, not to my knowledge, we have any Chinese speaking loan officers. We're looking to add people all the time. And this has come up in previous sales meetings, but I had mentioned in the beginning of this conversation that I have, let me go back to the Zoom call here.
She will be the first one.
What's the issue?
I said Iris may be the first Chinese speaking loan officer for masters.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
So what I was gonna mention on the Iris and for anybody else that's on this call, if you know anybody that either in lending or real estate for that matter, that you would like to recruit, we have people that are full-time recruiters. You don't have to sell them on the company and the brokerage. We have people that will do that for you. They're very good at it. They're full-time. It's all they do. So I'm not asking you to be a recruiter, but if you know anybody that would like to come aboard, or Iris, if you know any Chinese speaking loan officers, and we offer every product and program under the sun, all the standard cookie cutter, A-paper, conventional stuff, jumbo, hard money, every income doc type, every property type, residential, commercial, reverse mortgages for seniors. There's nothing. We have fix and flips for people in properties with deferred maintenance or dilapidated properties. If it's out there, pretty well shake a stick at anything. If you know anybody that's Chinese speaking loan officer or anybody else for that matter, that you think, hey, I would like to recruit them. If they come aboard for as long as that person is working with the brokerage and you are as well, you get a 10% override on their commissions. So if you know anybody out there and you want to cast a wide net, I mean, we're always looking to add qualified people to our staff. And it's a good opportunity for you to put a little extra money in your pocket, especially if they're volume oriented. There's not too many other brokerages out there that are offering that. It's really a nice value add. All right.
Greg, I have a quick question. This
Yes.
is Tiffany. Wanted to know, do you have a program where we can pre-approve sending all the paperwork to the lender and all we need is to have the address to plug it in once they find the house?
So we have a we have a program, our loan origination software, where with the client's name, with their email, and with their cell phone, we can invite them into the system, and they can apply online, and they can upload all their documents into the system too if they choose. They want to just put in the core information, they can do that. They can speak with one of our loan officers. I'm happy to pair people up. I do it all day, every day, with every office that we work out of, and really, go out of my way to make sure that people are pairing up with like-minded individuals. We have loan officers, right now, 53 licensed loan officers within the brokerage. There's about 500 real estate agents, in its entirety. So many more real estate agents than loan officers, but we could accommodate 10 times the volume that we currently have right now based on our staff and the people that we have. And the people that I would pair you up with, in fairness, would be those that are experienced, that know what they're doing. I would never, ever pair you up with somebody that just got licensed that's bumping into walls. So it would only be people that are full-time, that have committed themselves to training, that know what they're doing. Certainly we want a good outcome. And I've been in this industry long enough, and from a referral standpoint, and I've mentioned this from day one in training any of our new loan officers, you're dealing with anybody from a referral standpoint, you're as good as your last transaction. And you burn a bridge on one, chances are you're not going to get that second chance. So I'm happy to align you. If you have any prospects that are out there, there's nothing more frustrating than working with prospective buyers, where you don't know in 100% certainty that they're rock solid. And you're spinning your wheels with all this time and effort, and then they get under contract and like, oh my gosh, like what happened? And there's nothing, like I say, more agonized than like, are you kidding me? Like what? So even as Robert mentioned on the front end, but before he had put me up as the host for the training, just a second set of eyes. If they're working with someone else, I mentioned we had a staff meeting yesterday morning on a performance call that Robert and Neil were both on, and the Thompsons were on. And I had mentioned to him, I said, even if a client's working with someone else, second set of eyes and just looking at it to make sure you're getting the best of the best out there is not hurting anyone. There's no cost up front. All that quick snapshot of info that I went through, I don't charge anybody $1 for it. And if we don't invest time and effort in people up front, we're not going to get the transaction. So there's no obligation. There's no cost up front. If I can, and I used this catchphrase in our call yesterday, but competition makes the world go round, number one. And number two, if I could put together a program that saves you thousands and thousands of dollars, would you be interested? And it's the ultimate yes question for somebody to come back and say, no, I would not be interested. Fact of the matter is, I can't help people that can't help themselves. But from the standpoint of me putting together something, and I use in that example, even if I'm saving somebody just a couple $100 a month over, another competitor, when you look at, nobody is taking a mortgage loan for 1 month. We're all concerned on a monthly payment, and we use that as the common denominator. But who's kidding who? Nobody, unless you're flipping a property, which is few and far between. It's a long-term play for most folks that are out there. So saving somebody even just a couple $100 a month over the life of the loan, you're talking $72,000. It's not a small amount of money. And if you took that couple hundred a month and actually put it into an investment fund and let that compound interest and make money over time, what would the 72,000 equate to at year 30? With any reasonable, conservative investment, you're probably, and I'm not a financial advisor, but you're probably somewhere into doubling to 2.5 times your money. So it might be in the 150 to 170 or 80 range, just taking the 200 skim and just putting it into an investment fund and just let it grow.
Greg, I have a quick question. For the second opinion, do you require for them to run, for you to run the credit report?
I'll take somebody at their face value, as will our loan officers. So we do not create these barriers for entry that make it difficult for people. If you tell me your credit score is 740, I'll use it to price the loan. You know, if you want to get into the debt ratios and you tell me, I mean, I work, I make 144,000 a year, 12,000 a month. I'm a project manager. I'll take you at face value. If you tell me your car payment's 475 and 613, no problem. Am I going to have to run the credit eventually? Yes. But up front, we try to keep it as simple as possible and not at a point where we're getting people to jump through hoops. Because for some folks out there, they would say, you know what, that's just a lot of hassle. And they don't even realize for the extent. And what's silly is, let's talk about the $200 a month as a silly, stupid example at 72,000. If you just took the 200 a month and put it in mason jars in the backyard and never invested it and you pissed it away every month and never made an extra penny, and it was 72,000, period, amen. Even on something like that, how much extra time and effort would it take to do business with somebody like me? An hour, maybe? And I don't know how much money you're making at your normal job, but it's probably not $72,000 for an hour. Is it going to take 2 hours to invest time and effort with me at 70? In that silly example, that's $36,000 for each hour, you know, to like work with the guy, you know, just to make sure I'm getting the best that is possibly out there. And we do pride ourselves. There are reports in our industry that pin lenders against one another, and we are aligned with the most competitively priced lenders in the industry. And we pride ourselves in staying ahead of the curve to make sure that we're offering, you know, the best and most favorable financing that's out there. So to answer your question on that one, Tiffany, I would not jam them and require that the credit report, you know, be run by us up front. I'll take them at face value. I'll put together the program. And then at the end of the day, if I put together options for them and it turns out that something that they told me did not hold true, and I would never rub anybody's nose in this, but shame on them, not shame on me. If you told me your credit score was 750 and it turned out to be 650, then I would explain to you, hey, we had this good quality conversation. You told me 750. I priced it at 750 in good faith. I then run your credit because you want to move forward and work with me. If it turns out to be less, then it is whatever it is. And the quotes that we put together for people through our software program, all on the exact same piece of paper, have the occupancy type, have the property type, have the credit score, have the property location. It's all in there. And it all goes, so it's not like as soon as they get a quote from us, they're going to see everything is on that same piece of paper. So you can't come back to me 2 or 3 days later and say, whoa, wait a second here. You know, you did this, you said that. No. Let's go back to the quote that was sent to you. Everything's in writing with us. We don't do anything verbally. I'm not saying that I don't speak to people, but every quote that we put together, they will get a follow-up and everything that they'll get in writing with a detailed breakdown. And our competition is not so much. Our competition is very loose. There are people that I'm talking with that our agents have asked, hey, can you speak to this client? You know, please, I want you to protect him. Where our competition is telling him, you know, don't worry about the rate lock. It's going to be fine. We'll get that done later when we're close to loan docs. And those people in our industry are going to turn the screws on that client at the time of loan documents when the client has no time to comparison shop and their back's against the wall. And it could be that they even waive their contingencies. Now their escrow deposit's at risk. So it could be that other competitor of mine told them up front, we can get you 5.75. And at the time of docs, they're going to stick them to 6 1/8, 6 1/4, turn the screws and make a lot of money on them because the client had no ability to take a step back and comparison shop too late in the game.
Okay, could you also send us or email us what you shared to us, the sheet with all the list of the things that we went over earlier? Or is that something that you can't send out?
Are we talking about what I shared on my screen here? Or are we talking about the training from 2 weeks ago?
No, what you just shared today on the screen.
Absolutely. I thought I sent it.
You did, I got it.
Yeah, I think if you're in the group emails, because I sent it out this morning, I'd have to look back at my email, but maybe in the 7 o'clock hour. Oh, 8:14. Somebody in the room is telling me. But yeah,
Great, thank you.
If you want to shoot me an email, my company email is my first name, Greg, and it's at fullrealtyservices.com. If you want to shoot me an email, if there's anything that you need, any questions that arise, I'll tell you, I love the Q&A. I sent out that group email this morning when I talked about update to market rates, and then I used an example in there on that 3-2-1 buy down. Overwhelming response and reply, and love to hear it. But I probably got, I'm going to say on the low side, at least a dozen people from the master side that, tell me more about this. How does this work? What's up with that? And really trying to get a little bit more knowledge and apply it. And even I think it was Lynn had said, can you please cover that in the training today? And it just wasn't set up for training today, but I'll cover the buy downs in subsequent trainings.
So Greg, if you're okay, I'd like to, something came to my mind when you said something earlier about if they save a few bucks and they put it into a fund, 10, 15 years, that could grow into 60, 70, maybe $100,000. So here's a thought for the agents, is to ask a client, hey, what's your 10-year plan in real estate? Would you like to have multiple homes? Would you like to have investment properties, things along those lines? And a lot of people are going to tell you, yeah, I'd love to have, an investment property. I'd love to have a rental property. Okay, great. Well, let me line out a plan of action for you. If we can save you $400 a month, what I want you to do is go to the bank and open up a savings account, okay? And you're going to put that $400 savings is going to go into that account. And it's just going to accumulate interest. And in 10 years, you're going to have a nest egg of $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in that money. And we're going to take that money, and that's what you're going to use to buy your first investment property. And so that's another conversation you can have with your clients, because if they don't have that type of plan, most people are never going to save the money to buy an investment property. But if you walk them through that, now that's the kind of stuff when they look at you and go, this is why I want to work with you as an agent. You connected me with someone here that saved me a few $100s, and then you walked me through how this few $100s can help me buy an investment property that I was looking at down the road. So just keep that kind of stuff in mind when you're not just, hey, I saved you some money. Great. It's, well, what can we do with that money in the real estate?
A lot of that comes down to, we go through and the term coaching is prevalent within our industry and our brokerage for certain, but even the way that we communicate with clients and coach them into lucrative opportunities bodes well and makes them not only want to refer additional people to us, but just gives them that warm feeling, to the extent where no other individual in the industry has mentioned these things to me. Like, nobody else is talking this talk, and it is so fresh and it's so new, and it's not magical. There are points in time I've gone back and I'll sell people on pure logic, pure numbers, of here's what we're talking about. The information that Neil put out with regards to appreciating areas. I had an agent last night. It's almost 8 o'clock last night here at the office. Last one out, but I had mentioned, you got these buyers that are sitting on the fence. Take the data that Neil sent out to you and use that to get them off the fence. Take the fact that interest rates have come down a little bit here in the last few weeks, and use that to motivate them and smother them with just the pure logic of it all, rather than their notion in their head that, oh no, I know more than the average bear. I know that property values are going to come down, whatever the case may be. But, there's a lot of good data that comes through that you can use as ammunition. I use this snapshot of info with regards to and I've used this funny analogy. I'll use funny analogies with anything just to really hone in the point. But for the good quality info that comes in on the snapshot of info, I equate that to the tools in the toolbox. And I got to get all the tools in the toolbox. If you want me to build a house that you're going to be comfortable living in, I got to get all the tools in the toolbox to get that house that's going to last and you're going to be comfortable in. In comparison to you only giving me the screwdriver, then you're going to get screwed. And I say that jokingly, but yet if you come back to me and say, oh, I have an 800 credit score, what have you got for me? Yeah, yippee-yi-yay. But if you want to buy a 4-unit investment property with little to no down, it's not apples to apples. So for me to blurt out any rate or quote anything to anybody, I got to get all the tools in the toolbox. I can't be at a point where I'm just getting the screwdriver. That's all I've got for today, young man.
I love it. Very valuable, very valuable. As you all can see, this is, Greg knows his stuff. That's the value of having someone like him, for agents out there is you want to be able, you have to remember something. This is something got brought up to me the other day. We had an agent that the client was upset with the agent. It's a true story. This happened. Client was upset with the agent and it had nothing to do with the agent. It was the lender didn't do a good job. Okay. So why was the client upset with the agent? Because the agent was the one that referred them to this lender. So even though the lender wasn't the one that did a good job, the client's looking at you as, hey, you're my guy, you're my gal, you're my face, you're my guidance. And I'm kind of entrusting you to put me into the right hands, and you put me in the hands of someone that doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't call me back, all these other different things. So you have to evaluate on, hey, look, I don't want to just send my client to people like, well, they're a lender, they're a title rep, they're whatever. Okay. You gotta make sure that you're sending them to the right people. And the reason, Greg does, these classes and things like that is because it clearly shows this is a guy that knows what he's talking about. And if he knows what he's talking about, the rest of the team knows what they're talking about. So it gives you that confidence that, hey, look, if I have a client, I can pass him over to this guy, this team, and I know that I'm going to look good, because if I don't have that confidence when I'm passing on a client to an affiliate, it's going to come back on you because they're looking at you as the guidance in this transaction. So you got to make sure you have those people. And that, again, even if you have those type of people, it's a second opinion. Your largest financial asset, you're about to spend $700,000 on a loan. Get a second opinion. Okay. This is not a t-shirt.
I would say also, and I've mentioned this to a lot of the agents we work with, but if you're working with any of our loan officers in comparison to working with someone at another institution, the reality of things is that you always have me as well, and you can always call me. So if you're ever at a point where, it's at the end of the day, what do I say to these people? Can you give me any insight? Can you give me any ammo to be able to go back, to the parties of the transaction at the 11th hour? I'll take the call. I got my cell phone in my pocket, aside from things where I'm training right now. But even people that'll reach out to me, if I'm on the phone with another client right now or working something else up, I'll immediately respond back to you in a text and say, on the phone now, I call you back in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Even on the performance call that we had yesterday, I had 6 different people that are calling me in the middle of the call. And I just mentioned in a staff meeting now, and with each one of them calling in 20 minutes, calling in 25 minutes, calling in 30 minutes. And every single one of the people are like, it's almost, and I don't mean to belittle anyone, but it's almost like, because I'm a parent too. When you got little kids, it's like, I want it now. I just need to know now. Now, okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm doing this right now, and I'm going to get back to you in such and such a time frame. But every single email, every single call, I will close the loop on everything before I am done for the day. It doesn't matter, how late, or even how early for that matter, but I will make sure that everything's knocked out, and you're never going to, feel like, hey, I'm on an island. And at certain points in time, for anybody that's been in real estate for a minute or two, you've worked with loan officers where all of a sudden they start ghosting you and they're not getting back to me. What's going on? I've left 3 messages today. I'm very frustrated. Why aren't they calling me? There's a reason why they're not calling. Maybe they don't want to tell you the real deal. I have told every one of our loan officers, I don't sugarcoat anything to anyone. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit anybody. I'll give you the straight shot. Here's exactly what's going on. I'll go to the wall for everyone. I want the best. I want every transaction to close. So no way, no how. Would I ever like, oh, he's trying to kill my deal? Hell no. I want them all to go as much as you want them to go. You know, so just from the standpoint of having, you know, just someone else. I had one of our new people on Sunday morning reach out to me, just came on as a new hire. And his name popped up in that call yesterday, and he does good volume. But he called me Sunday morning, and I was just getting to church with my family and my mom, and I texted him back and I said, calling in an hour and a half. And I just texted him very quickly, and as soon as I buzzed him back, yeah, hey, thank you for letting me know, and was even surprised that he got a quick reply. You know, if he'd have called me or texted me 10, 15 minutes later, it'd have been an hour and a half anyway, or an hour. So yeah, just from the standpoint of knowing that, you know, and I would never talk out my backside. So if there's something that I know the answer to, I would tell you right away. If it's something I can research, I'd tell you right away. If it's something that's beyond the scope, I'd be the first one to say, you need to consult a licensed tax preparer. You need to consult the licensed financial planner, you know, whatever the case may be. You know, so if it's something in my wheelhouse, I've had some people ask me very intricate questions about 1031 exchanges. You need to talk to an exchange company. You know, this is beyond the scope. I don't do that stuff for a living.
Greg, so if a client asks where's your office, or what do I say? Where is your main office at?
We have 14 offices. So you can mention every location that we have from a corporate standpoint. You know, our corporate office, and where I'm calling you from right now, is in Marietta. But when it comes to a loan standpoint, and I've been doing this for a really long time. I don't necessarily have to know that First Street and Main Street intersect and there's a Starbucks on the corner. So I don't have to necessarily know particular local areas, much like the real estate agent does. You know, I don't necessarily maybe have to know, is this in the Gardena Unified School District? Is this in the Irvine? Am I over in Upland? Am I Covina? You know, from my standpoint, and from our loan officers as well, if people want to meet, we'll avail ourselves. If people want to meet on a personal basis, you know, but we run around. We have agents here that are doing transactions up in the high desert, you know, Hesperia, Victorville. Somebody sitting in the room right in front of me here just recently closed on a listing of hers in Palmdale, did the loan for the gal out there as well. You know, so it's all relative. You know, we have transactions all over the place. You know, I mean, if I'm off the top of my head, you know, as far like north and west is Malibu, you know, all the way out into the desert. So it's not really, you know, kind of, you know, it's so specific, but if people do want to meet and they're old school in that nature, we'll arrange to meet with people too. I got no problem with it. We'll make it happen.
There you go. Good stuff, Greg. You're the man, dude.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. All right, everybody. Good stuff. Very powerful.
Greg.